Video journal entry 17, April 27th, 2025. Why, hello. Let's see. I feel like what am I thinking about this week? I feel like my thoughts have been a little here, a little there. But then again, I feel like that's always like that. I feel like first things first, I think my contract is like official that it will be renewed. I remember I mentioned that like some weeks ago, has it been months ago? But I remember I mentioned that like I needed to figure out what I was gonna do, like whether it would be renewed, and if not, I should be searching. But it's been said that it's gonna be renewed. So that's good. Like that's something that's like officially like off my plate. And also like my break has been like approved for me to take that, because I remember I was saying before, like I'm just looking forward to like a break. Even if my contract wasn't renewed, I was just like looking forward to a break. So it's good that I have one, because before like my contract kind of just rolled over into the next cycle. And like I mentioned, I'm contracts, I don't have like PTO, so I was like debating like when I'll take my break, etc. But it's been like checked off, so I will be getting that. I'm so excited for it, regardless if I got renewed or not. Like I was gonna be having that break. So I have like a month left before it. I think I said this last week, but it's so crazy because like time is moving fast, but at the same time, like time isn't moving fast for what you want it to move fast for. So I'm like so excited to like have a period of time where I'm like not thinking about like any work stuff at all. I feel like my workload is okay, but I feel like I said, I can't like just turn my mind off from like certain things with work. So it's like gonna be nice to like have a designated period of time. Like I don't have to think about even a single email or a single response. So that's exciting. I'm debating like if I should go somewhere, like where I want to go. I feel like I'm gonna be like off for like a month, and I feel like with a month, like dang, like there's so much to do, and like I feel like I want to use that time to the best of like my ability. But at the same time, I don't want to be like running around traveling. If that makes sense. Like I want to travel somewhere, but I don't want to be like running around every second. Like I want to be pretty like level. I really want to work on like music within that time. And I really want to like reflect on myself and like just work on things I need to work on. So I don't want to be like running around rampant. But at the same time, I'm like, damn, that's a month. Like I should be traveling here. So I'm trying to figure out where I should go, if I should go anywhere, like what I should do for the time. I feel like even if I sat at home, that wouldn't be too bad. But I feel like I should use that time since I have it, so it doesn't go to waste. So I'm debating like where I want to go. I was thinking Ghana, but Ghana is like rainy season, and I don't want to do my Ghana. I don't want to rush my Ghana content. I will just probably be like wrapping up all my Japanese content by then, and I'm not looking forward to like jumping right into Ghana content. So like I'm gonna hold off from there. So I'm like debating like what I should do or where I should go. I want to take one of those cool train rides. The U.S. has like really cool train rides, and I feel like it's a shame that I haven't really taken one. So I want to take one of those. I don't know. I don't know. But I want to make the most out of that month. I'm not going to put too much pressure on myself or nothing like that, but I'm looking forward to that. This week I mentioned before, like I've been trying to like do a little bit more art things, and I mentioned how I was like doing like practicing making shapes in like one movement, and how like there was like a little bit of a glitch on this side of my mind. I've been like moving, I've like elevated a step forward. I've been doing like my sketches, but I've also been tracing line art from like other artists' work and like manga, manhwa type of work. And oh my gosh, like man, it works your brain. I swear to goodness, it really works the hand-eye coordination, and like really gave me like appreciation for like artists, no matter the art style. If somebody has clean artwork, they put their elbow into that, because like it takes time, and I don't know if it's harder because like it's probably like more natural to do your own like strokes and like have smooth strokes based on like your own mind and like what you want and where you want to place things. But like especially trying to be precise for somebody else's strokes, like it's hard. I feel like it's working my mind when it comes to like attention to detail and like intricacy and like precision. So it's like working that part of my mind. But like when I'm doing that sometimes, I like feel my mind working, and it's just a reminder that your brain is like a muscle. And it's crazy how like certain parts of your brain, you're probably just never gonna work if you don't have a certain interest, right? So like if I didn't want to like do art forward things, I didn't really care for that and care to do that, I would like never work that part of my brain. And it's just so crazy. What they say, don't they say we only use like 20% of our brains? That's insane. Bitch, I want to be, I don't know about y'all, but I've always wanted to like be like Matilda, telepathic, or like teleport things, or like, what's the word for it? I forgot what it's called, but like the ability to like pick things up with your mind. I've always wanted to do something like that. But man, it's like crazy about how the brain works. So I'm like doing that. We'll see like where that progresses. I've had kind of fun doing that sometimes. Sometimes it's like, depending on like the art style, it can be stressful. Like I did one with like a more whiskey art style, and that was a struggle. But then I've done like some easier ones. But it's really fun though, cause like, and it's also make me feel like I should I'm getting the most out of my iPad. So I'm happy that I got the one I got. But it's interesting how like with if you use like Procreate, you know, but like trying to be like delicate in your touch to get certain outcomes with the lines. So like trying to start a little bit more softer so you can have a taper start, and then adding more pressure, and then having to go softer again to like taper out at a certain like width. I think that's like really interesting. It's like a really interesting thing to pay attention to, and like that type of detail to pay attention to. I feel like it's good for me because sometimes I love detail. When it comes to myself, I rush, so I don't know if I do. When I'm like into detail, I'm into it, but like a lot of times I'm just trying to get something done, so I'm like not doing all the detail. But it's been nice to like really take a step back and like look into that detail and like pay attention to it more. I feel like I mentioned before, but like that rush for time, and you have to understand that like time is a made up concept sometimes. So I hope that felt like it was too free of conscious. I don't know. I hope that made sense. My throat has been like really itchy, and I drink water and I don't know why. But on another note, something I was thinking about is I was thinking how like human rights and accessibility are like one and the same. And the fact that like if you hear about accessibility, pretty much it's like when you do things in the name of accessibility, it's like when you do something to accommodate somebody that may have some type of disability, it ends up helping everybody. Because like there's different types of like disabilities, right? There's your permanent disabilities, there's your short-term disabilities where you might break your leg and like your life has changed temporarily in that moment, etc. It's like when you do things in the name of accessibility, it can help everybody. It can make things easier for everybody. So like the same thing goes with like human rights. When you do things for human rights in the name of supporting and helping minorities, it ends up helping everybody. And I feel like in this country, we have been seeing a lot of the inverse of like when you do something specifically to spite minorities, it's hurting everybody. Like, for example, like credit score and how credit scores were established, and a lot of the redlining for housing, etc. A lot of that is coming to harm more than just the minorities that sometimes they were meant to harm. So like I feel like we need to start tapping into, like I said, the inverse of like when you do something in the name of human rights, it's helping everybody. That's the same with like feminism. People like hoot and holler about feminism, but then like will be crying about the results of patriarchy. If you do certain things in the name of feminism, in the name of kind of dismantling patriarchy, it will help you just as much as it may help women, you know? I was just thinking about that randomly as I was thinking. But next off, I told you, my thoughts have been like, bing, bop, boom, bop, bing. Oh, what is next? With that being said, another thing I was thinking about, I did like a whole like TikTok video on this though. I was thinking about how like Americans, I feel like we have a real lackadaisical approach right now to everything that's going on in the country. Like we are aware that bad things are happening. Well, some of us are. But like, it's kind of just like, man. And it's just kind of like business as usual. And I feel like it's like that because in America, a lot of people have not, for like a lot of generations, don't really know the type of wickedness that like a leader can be capable of and put onto their people. I feel like we have our problems in the country, and like we have our faults, and we peep that the government could be helping us more, but like we don't have anything as like really brutally and wickedly cruel that other countries and other places have been subjected to. So it's easier for us to like kind of be like, well, like, oh my gosh, this is bad, but well, it's easier to have that because a lot of people don't really know what that other side, like, they don't know where this can go, how far things can go. It doesn't really feel like it can be reality till it becomes reality. And I think like we have that problem a lot in this country is that like people lack a lot of empathy, right? People don't understand things until it is within their proximity. And I feel like you shouldn't have to be like that, right? I feel like you learn from other people's experience, learn from what people say. Because sometimes you'll have like one demographic of people talking about certain things happening, and then you have somebody else that's kind of like scoffing at it until it happens to them. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, like this thing, I can't believe this, and da da da. But it's like you could have not had to go through a thing if you would have listened to others, right? I feel like we have that kind of bad here. Like we haven't experienced, this country as a nation as a whole hasn't experienced certain things. We haven't experienced the type of wickedness even our own country is capable of that they have already actively done to other people. And we don't think that it's going to like one day have a leader that's going to like turn that back onto us. So I feel like we still have this like lackadaisical approach to what's happening. And to be honest with you, I think about it and it's like, what do we do, you know? How do you go harder? I guess you have to sacrifice more. But it's just, I know it's a hard thing to think about. With that being said, I've been thinking about like, I think I just saw the same time. I've been thinking about like what's happening in the country, the push towards fascism that's happening, and it's like really crazy like how it's occurring play by play from like things that have occurred in history. Like I read something about how like Mussolini's had an execution attempt on him, and that really solidified his like fascist regime and his pro-fascist movements because it riled up the people, it riled up the masses in support of him. And it made me think about like what happened with Trump with his like pums attempts, and that like clicked to me like, oh my gosh, somebody's reading history and like trying to replay it. And it's crazy to see that unfold in front of you, and it's just but on another note, because of these things, I started reading this book called King Leopold's Ghost, and it's like about what happened in Congo and the genocide that happened in Congo, which is the genocide that people often don't know about and brush over, and it pretty much entails what King Leopold, which was the ruler of Belgium, did to Congo. And I was thinking about that because I've seen stuff about Congo's independence. Like a few weeks ago, I saw a speech of Congo's first prime minister and leader when they gained their independence. This was years after what happened with Belgium, and I saw the speech of that leader. That was one little dropling of like me kind of like seeing what happened in Congo. But I also thought about how the next leader in charge was one of those type of leaders that really spited their people. He was pretty much put in charge, I think, to help colonialism. He was not all skin folk or kinfolk, right? He was black, he was a African leader, but he did not have his people's best interest in mind. Like he was put in place to probably by the colonial West to kind of like help keep things mild. And I was thinking about that because, like I said, that's an example of one of those leaders that spite their people. So I was like, I just want to look a little bit more into that history of Congo and like what they went through. So I just think it's something like, I felt like it would be something good to like look into and know a bit more about. But as I was reading the introduction, it made me think of something that's like, it made me think of something that's pretty much like, greed is a wicked thing, man. I read something in the book because first they're like bringing you through the introduction of Congo before what happened with King Leopold, right? And that's what happened when the Portuguese first discovered that land and they discovered Africans. And they had a bit of a relationship for a time, and missionaries and people to spread the word of like Catholicism and whatnot came there. And once slavery started like ramping up, it wasn't always in its full-fledged thrust of like the transatlantic slave trade. But once that started to pick up and people were starting to see the money that can be made and profit that can be made for slavery, I read in the book that like certain priests that were there on their missionary trips apparently just decided they're not going to be priests anymore, and they were going to go into the slave trade. And in turn, some of them even sold some of their students that they were teaching, some of their African people that they were teaching their Catholicism to, etc. Once they decided they weren't going to be priests anymore, they sold them into that trade. And I was just thinking, like, how wicked is that? My goodness, how wicked is that? Like, that, you really got to be careful with that thing. That is greed. Like, my gosh. And it also makes you think about, like, my stance for religion, I'm not really too religion forward. Like it really enforced why I'm skeptical of religion, because it's like I'm very spiritual and I do believe in God, but like when it comes to religion, I'm like, because just think about that. Think about how fickle something can be, where somebody that is literally supposed to be like an ambassador of this thing, they live and eat and breathe this thing that is religion, and look how quickly they sold out when it came to $1. Like, and that's why like I'm like real skeptical about religion, because like it's very human forward and it's very human led, human centered, and humans do messed up things all the time. So you can't tell me that in all these years humans haven't tampered with all these texts and documents and all these rules, etc., for their own benefit. You know, I have some other thoughts on that as well. I ain't gonna go too deep into that, but that was like really like, when I read that, I was like, oh my gosh, that is wicked. Like I can't even imagine being in like the student seats where you have somebody coming to you preaching this thing and you're probably eating it up and you're like, oh my gosh, like wow, this other way of life, like your eyes are opening. And religion has its, like, I like religion for the fact that it keeps humans in check, right? It keeps this moral compass that everybody wouldn't naturally have sometimes. It places and instills it on people, and it helps us do right by others sometimes, but at the same time, it can help us do wrong onto others. But I can imagine like those students were hearing this message and they're probably hearing the positives of religion, like helping others and being equals and da. And just for the people teaching them to turn around and sell them into slavery. My God. Like, man, anyway, on to the more positive. I'll talk more positive thoughts. I remember last week I talked about like what inspires me, and I want to think about that more. So this week I wrote a list of like certain things that inspired me. 1, people who work hard and people who are their authentic selves. I think that always inspires me. I really am inspired by diligence and discipline and perseverance. As most people, I think. Actually, I do think some people, when in the face of what they are not and what they may want to be, they have a negative outlash on that. But I feel like for the most part, I like seeing a reflection of what I can be in front of me, right? I may not be that, but I like seeing somebody exhibit that for me to know that it's humanly possible. Even though it's like humanly possible, that makes things sound so exaggerated, but just to know that certain things are possible for me, I like seeing that. So like seeing hardworking people always inspires me. I went out to eat. I went to eat on Friday. I almost didn't go out, but I was like, let me go. And I went to eat and I sat at the bar and like I ate my food. And there were these like 3 girls next to me, and they were talking about like getting their like designer bags, getting like 1 designer bag a year, very like bossed up, get into the bag type of shit. And that inspired me, because they were like, I think they had like Chanel's, and I think they were like talking about their Chanel bags. And that's when they got into like the conversation of like treating themselves to like designer bags, at least 1 every year, you know, because they work hard, you should play hard. And I was like, you know what? Tea, bitch. That's tea. I like that. That inspired me, because, you know, I hope, like, you know how there's like the concept of like influencers where like somebody will start off one way, like start off smaller, and as they get bigger, people are like, oh, they're not relatable anymore. I just hope my audience knows, babes, I want to be a bougie ass, paid ass gal. Like, I want to be soft life. So I hope nobody ever thinks and sees me and like, oh my God, she's changed it up, she switched up. Actually, I do want people to check me if I've like switched up character wise, but you should know, I want to be laid, slayed, dipped to the side. I want to be that girl. So I don't want anybody ever being like, oh, she's like this and the third. No, the goal is to be a bad mama jamma. I always stay grounded, I always stay humble, but you know, I do want a soft life. I do want a nice life. That inspired me. When I was out, I went to another place that was like playing house music, and like there were it was interesting to me. That place that I went to was interesting because it was like a mix of ages. I feel like sometimes you go to a place and it's like mostly younger people, sometimes you go to a place it's mostly older people, but this place was like kind of mixed. I think maybe like pushing 30 plus, but it still felt mixed. And there were these 2 older ladies. They were like older, maybe being like 50s, 60s, and they were dancing on that dance floor, getting down, and I was like, I know that's right. They were so cute. That inspired me, because I want to live life. I want to live life till I can't no more, till the bones fall off. I want to live life. I want to be happy. I want to enjoy. I want to be that joyous when I'm older, and I hope that life does not skew me and take away my joy. I want to be old and happy. I want to be old, happy, sitting on the porch giving candy to kids, not in a weird way. Like, but I want to be like the little grandma that like people like see and they're like, "Hi, Miss." I want to be like that. So yeah, that inspired me. Let's see. What else inspired me? Oh, I saw a pretty pink tree. Trees in general always inspire me. Speaking of trees, because I saw pretty trees, a lot of pretty trees, I wrote a song yesterday, a little like mini song inspired by how I felt trees feel. Because I feel like trees are so sassy. If you really pay attention to trees, trees are like the most sassy divas queens. And I wrote a song in the POV of sassy trees. So that inspired me. I felt happy that I like took that inspiration and made something with it. So that was nice. I saw a pretty cardinal bird, which is so pretty. But I feel like in Chicago we don't have a lot of colorful birds. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we don't. Besides like a cardinal. So like I always love like when I see them because I'm used to seeing those like little tiny brown birds or like pigeons or like seagulls. Back in the day with my old suburb that I used to live in, they would have these green birds. Those were really pretty. I haven't seen one of those in a long time. What happened to those birds? I haven't seen one of those in years. But like when I see a colorful bird, that's always interesting because it's like different, you know. And yeah, that's what inspired me this week. That's been good. I also thought to myself like. I was thinking, like, I think I owe it to myself to be my best self, you know? Not for anybody else, for myself. So I was thinking about before how, I think I mentioned this before, how I felt this type of, like, maybe loss of purpose, but I also felt like for a long period of time, like, I wanted to make my parents proud, and, like, I wanted to make my family happy, but, like, I had this shift with family relationships that made me, like, start to feel differently, and it made me feel like doing things in the name of like making family proud and like X, Y, and Z wasn't really worth it, you know? And like I feel like that kind of like shifted a core part of like my foundation because it was like a big part of me to like do for my family and like wanting everybody to be good. So like when I came to the point where it's like, well, and I could receive like a certain response, I was like, well, what's the point? It kind of like shifted something in my core. But as I was thinking to myself, I was like, I owe it to myself. It doesn't matter anybody else, but like I owe it to myself, like to do for me and like to be my best self. I've always kind of understood that, but like I just thought about it more so that like I really need to like focus on that part. But yeah, I thought about that. What else I think about? I feel like I have the song of the summer marinating in my head. I have a song. I thought about the whole melody. I just need to like make a beat for it, but like the idea of making a beat for it and producing the whole thing and making it something that I really, really like and I'm really proud of, it stressed me the hell out. But I feel like it would be a good song. Like I'm thinking about it and I just feel like it'd be so good. I feel like I should force myself to make it. Maybe in my month break I'll like force myself to make it, but I thought about that. Another thing I'm thinking about, I feel like Chicago, it's just not the most liveliest of a city. And I've been thinking about that often. Like, especially like after I like traveled to like Asia and stuff the first time, I was just thinking like, I feel like Chicago is just not super lively. It's like very much Midwest. I think I've said this before, but like, I don't know if I said it like my journal entries, but I've been thinking about it for a while. But it's like not as lively. Like I'll go out and I'll see people out, but not that much. And I'll be like downtown and I'm like, what's going on? I know one, because of the like winter, that's one factor. But even I feel like when it's not winter, even when the weather is like relatively a little bit chillier, but still relatively mild, and even in the summertime sometimes, like people just aren't as out and about. You don't see as many people. I think maybe one, because of like maybe population density is different than like other cities that I've been to. But I feel like there's just something else happening. Because I thought about it today. I was talking to my dad. And I thought about it and I was like, wait a minute, it was not always like this. When I was younger, I feel like people was out. When I was younger, we used to pop out. Like, I remember when I was young, we used to go downtown and downtown would be packed. I know the grown folks was screaming in their interiors. I know they hated to see us coming, but it used to be so fun. Like, I just feel like it was more lively. Nowadays, the city is just not like that. Like, even when there's people out, it's not that many people. It's not the same. I don't know if I'm really conveying that idea well. I don't know if other people notice this like I have, but like, man, it makes me want to see New York. I want to go to New York just to see if it's just like a Chicago problem of like, even though New York is considered this like big metropolis, I wonder if, I don't know. I'm just curious about it. I don't really know if I ever want to like live in New York. It just does not seem, it never made sense to me because I think about personal finance and it just does not make sense to be spending all that money to have such a low quality of life. But I do understand that if it is as lively as people say, I can't understand how that really may help you forward in like your career and like artistry, etc. I can see how living in New York might be more helpful. For example, like Chicago, we just don't have that type of creative scene that like New York and LA has. I wonder if it's because of like the clickiness of Chicago. Chicago is very much like very clicky and very small world. So I wonder if like maybe that's one of the reasons that like kind of hinder that type of creative growth and it being a creative metropolis. I think maybe once upon a time, Chicago might have been that place. I know we had movies filmed here back in the day, but I don't know if like even in that time if it was this hub for like creative innovation. I don't know. But what else? Oh, another thing I thought. I was really like gassed up and I thought to myself like, fuck challenges, fuck obstacles. What is an obstacle to me, bitch? I'm gonna overcome everything. I'm a little bit more calmed down from that point. I don't know what that was about. But you know what? Hell fucking yeah. Me back then. I agree with her. Even though I'm like not as like riled up as I was when I was thinking that thought. But I hope to get that energy back. Yeah. F obstacles, you know? I shouldn't really let them bog me down. I should really have faith in myself to overcome them. So that thought still stands. Even though I'm not as like riled up as I was back then. I'm trying to think about like what state of mind I was in, but alas, still, I agree with that. I agree with that stance. I need to like look obstacles in the face and say, F you, who are you? Yeah. Another thing is, if you can't tell, I think maybe it shows, I'm feeling better this week than I was last week, like the past few weeks. I still have a ways to go, but I'm feeling better. So that's really good. I feel like for the upcoming week, my thoughts are more so trying to like get myself to knock out a lot of the rest of my Japan videos, especially like they're like I feel like they're two like pillars of the Japan content that I have made this time around and the content that I'm making this time around. And that's like one, it's like my Sony footage content that I'm like kind of thinking about more and like, not that I haven't thought about my other videos more, but like it's just a different process of thinking. I'm like researching certain things. It's not as on the flow as like some of my vlogs, which I appreciate in itself as well. Like my vlogs, I feel like I can show people, as I mentioned before, almost like I can allow people to see things as they are through like my lens and how I show it, and like not how I show it, but like pretty much just through the lens of like how I'm seeing them in the moment. I feel like my vlogs are really good for that. And then like my other like format of video is like adding some context, adding more thought, adding more history than the just on the cusp, on the move type of content. So those have been the two pillars. I feel like the former of the kind of like more research videos and the more context videos, those take like a lot more energy, I feel like. And they stress me out a little bit more and they make me a little bit more anxious to do. But I want to like try to get the rest of those done within like the next few weeks. So those are my thoughts going into next week. But yeah, that's it for me. I feel like, I don't know what it is. I felt like really like, maybe it's because I just ate before I came down here. I don't know, but I hope it didn't feel, as I'm saying it, I feel like I'm just like really stream of conscious. I feel like I'm always kind of stream of conscious if I'm talking, but I feel like really jittery. I don't know why. But yeah, that's my thoughts for this week. That's it for me. Bye.